sorry, go
100
ahead.
online, yeah, a little less than 100 online responses that Art kindly kind of guided for us and got that link up and running for us. And I think a little over 80 responded.
Yeah, I would say the online submissions were pretty regular. For whatever reason, we would get one or two a day. I'm not sure if they were why they were so sporadic, but we were pretty regular in getting one or two. Some of them repeated same topics, but many of them were unique. So I have a map in my office. A lot of it focuses on Oakland and Capital areas, but there are some residential spots that were noted as well. So I think the online portion in my mind was pretty successful. I personally had hoped that we would have gotten more participants at the town halls, but I understand it's summer and, family obligations and things like that. So I just hope that we've given people the opportunity, whether in person or online. I'm also there. They can call me, they can do whatever they want to get those in there. So I think we've made it available. I hope that we've gotten a good snapshot of the typical issues. In terms of response rates of other communities, I can't speak to that. I'd have to allow you guys to weigh in on that.
Sure. When we issue a survey, a digital survey, electronic survey to communities, and it goes through municipalities out to, usually it's tied to, utility bill, contact information, or something that links them to the address. We don't see a high response. If we get a 30% response rate, a statistical sample, that's good. In this case, obviously the town hall meetings were very, very focused. They're in a centrally located area at the library. We did have, I'm looking at our notes here, over 100 attendees. The focus group meetings were well attended. And there were some different people at the focus group meetings. And that's, I think, and Steve and I were talking about this on our team, and we did see the same individuals, a portion of more the same individuals coming to these meetings, but we would, get a layer deeper many times in the subject matter. So the first few times interacting, they were getting an understanding of what was happening, and then talk to their neighbors, talk to their fellow business owners, and come back with more information, or would share with us that they've thought about it, or they thought about things differently, or they actually went out and walked or looked in certain areas, and it refreshed their perspective, and they were able to come back and share more information. But as far as the content, the quality of content, Andrew mentioned the online, and Bart mentioned the online. There were some very thorough responses provided, and comments and recommendations. So that led us to dig deeper into those areas, and we looked for common patterns or common topics, and Steve will be able to speak to those with the traffic. It seems like stop signs are either love them or hate them in Shorewood. Some people affectionately refer to some of the stop signs as the Shorewood roll, and others don't see a problem with the stop sign. So those are areas that came up, frequently. So how does the village respond to that?
Bill, just to add, all of the public comments are actually going to be full comments that Bart received, and that we received from other participants are going to be on the appendix. So that's 20 plus pages of comments that we'll be able to review as well.
That's a good point, correct. And that was a request to include those, unfiltered, unedited. So we just took all the comments and put them into the appendix, and that'll be great for the group to read, and maybe some of your comments are in there. All right.
So do we have anything further on Town Hall 2 with the group? I should say Rachel Ellerman of Bike Ped and Leonard Sobchak of Multifamily have joined us as well within that conversation. So just we're going through Town Hall number 2 right now. If there's any comments or questions on that. Otherwise, you can also transition to Town Hall number 3 on transportation if you'd like, and just see if there's any particular high points or discussion elements from the group.
Yeah, the Town Hall 2 residential parking obviously was a hot topic for on-street residential specifically. And so won't get into the details here, other than we were asked to take a close look at the overnight parking regulation and policy that's in place now. And so that's something we definitely have done, and it'll be included in the report. Steve's going to talk about Town Hall 3, which focused on transportation.
Thanks, Phil. Again, we met on August 29th. We had roughly 20 attendees. I think 18 signed the thing, but there were a couple others that didn't sign the sign-in sheet. But again, from the traffic perspective, we hit on the Metro Market. I'm not going to go through all the comments. I think the one concern was more the future fear of the daycare that was approved there. A number of comments about what's going to happen with that. Stop signs. Again, this is the first time I think I heard the comment of what they call the Shorewood stop, or the Shorewood roll, is people tend to roll through the stop signs, especially when there's not a lot of cross traffic in the area, as well as too many. Traffic safety, some of the same issues came up that we've talked about in some of the others. Pedestrians. There was one of the common themes here was education on crossing a number of areas. Make people aware. How do we educate the public that adults aren't supposed to be riding their bikes on the sidewalk, and they're supposed to stop at stop signs and be polite and do this kind of thing, and obey around the schools, obey the traffic signs and the traffic system that was set up around each school, where people tend not to do that. That was kind of a general theme through all areas. We had some for biking, we had some infrastructure issues about potholes, making Murray Avenue the bike boulevard that's being contemplated, and one gentleman would like to see someday Capitol Drive, the bike lanes there, be more protected than they currently are. As well as, and then we also talked about mobility mobility, both in terms of public transportation, e-scooters was briefly discussed, and then some other interesting topics were brought up, like think about the future, small robot deliveries. Some Amazon and others are thinking of delivering the little things that run around the sidewalk, and I'm not sure how much we'll get into that, but they did want to think about that in terms of also autonomous vehicles, when truly vehicles are driverless. How is that going to affect transportation and some of the rules? Again, I'm going to touch on that on a real broad basis. I mean, that's something that's not going to change overnight. To talk about enforcement, especially, it would be nice to have red light cameras or speed cameras, and which currently Wisconsin law prohibits. Milwaukee is trying to get the legislator to get some legislation to allow them to do a limited installation within the Milwaukee, so that may be something that can be built upon in the future. And let's see what else. And so that was kind of the brief overview. Anyone have particular questions, comments on Town Hall number 3?
I have a question. I'm curious, you do this as part of your business. Is Shorewood how does Shorewood compare to other communities with some of these issues? Is it the same common issues, or are people fussier in Shorewood from what you've seen? Or, I just want some context of where Shorewood stands among communities. Do you have a sense?
I don't have a empirical sense in the sense that I could say, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're a 5 or a 6 or a 9 or what. I think every community, when people have a chance, well, actually, let me just give this anecdotal answer. When you go to parties and you're a doctor and say, hey, I'm a doctor, and then the person you meet, hey, doc, my arm hurts, what should I do? I get the same thing when I introduce someone new and they go, I'm a traffic engineer. What do you do? I look at traffic. Oh, you know what? I drive to work and the intersection of X, Y, and Z is horrible. And what can we do about it? Or I have this problem or that. So
God
no
bless
matter
you
where
for your
go, traffic and
patience.
parking is everyone can complain about it. So I can't say that your complaints per 1,000 people, per 10,000 people population is more or less than others, but I did many, this is a long time ago, Farmington Hills, Michigan, did a kind of a citywide study. Again, lots of comments about lots of intersections. That's a much bigger community. When you give, and then I live in a suburb of Palatine, Illinois, and I did a downtown type of study. Again, pedestrians, bikes, parking. And again, a number of comments. When you give people a chance to talk, they talk about their complaints. So I think Sherwood's on par. I think they're a little, in some sense, a little more sophisticated maybe than some of the suburban communities in the sense that you are a little more of an urban and more interested in some of those alternative, means of transportation in terms of the biking, the pedestrians.
Well, that gives good context. That's good to get that referenced. Okay, good.
Was there any,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, was there any standout themes that you saw in each town hall, like ones that were continually being brought up that we should focus on?
I think for me, going through the town hall meetings and also the focus group, enforcement is something that is misunderstood. I think there's a perception that there are more parking enforcement personnel than actually are employed. And so, the frustration of, well, where are they and why aren't they, more vigilant around the schools or more, proactive in certain areas, it really has to do with availability, access. There's a geographic area they have to cover, and there's 2 of them, and they're part-time, and it's not feasible to be able to do that. There is equipment that has helped. There's the LPR equipment, license plate recognition equipment, some of the handheld equipment, but still, it's a challenge.
And if we're not able to receive additional police funds for the actual enforcement, I mean, would it be bad to bring back some regulations so the ones that are important to be enforced can be enforced, and the ones that are maybe not so prevalent can be a little more lenient on those times, and then enforce those areas that really should be straight up open and Capitol versus skimming Jarvis and Wood and for the 2 hours. I don't know. I'm just trying to.
You're right. You're right on topic. That's maximizing the resources to the greatest good. And so, looking at what you do have and how do you distribute them to have the greatest impact for positive change, which would be ensuring access. If there are areas, hot spots, then definitely that's the area of focus. And so, when we're looking at the enforcement recommendations, and we're not just simply saying add more staff. I mean, that would be an easy fix. And some communities can do that, and some communities are moving towards an ambassador program. And the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan is a model community for initiating that ambassador program. These enforcement officers are trained not only to enforce parking ordinance, but also to communicate events that are happening. Information on the stores that are down there. They also do they'll do battery jump, and they're trained in CPR. And they're really identifiable within the community in the downtown areas and in the residential near downtown areas, walking the streets. That's a big capital investment for the community, but they believe that hospitality and serving and really making sure the visitor as well as the frequent the resident and frequent visitor have access and information, and they feel welcomed and safe downtown. So they've employed this program. That isn't the case for every community. They can't afford that. So we're looking at changes to the enforcement in how they administer what they do, that would create a little bit more of an ambassador program to educate and communicate. So we use them to help achieve another objective, which is to clarify regulations that some people are confused about. And they are doing that now on an ad hoc basis, but making it part of the training, part of the delivery of services.
Do you have a feeling for how positive people are in relation to something changing as a result of the survey? We had a table at the Sherwood Farmers Market 2 weeks ago and talked with some people, and I heard a few times, not every time, of course, that I'm not sure anything's going to change or something like that. And I think I've seen that said online a couple of times, and there's a few comments circulating in some of the forums, like there was no observation that happened during school, and just some other comments which I don't believe are true, but sort of indicate a pessimistic feeling about the outcome. Have you gotten any
Sure.
feelings about that?
No, yeah, I think largely the attendees and those who participated, who made the effort and sacrificed the time that have come and participated,
Yeah.
they do, as Steve mentioned, share their war stories. But we really try to guide discussions towards solutions and let them know that there is a hierarchy of recommendations. We want to make sure that there are implementable recommendations in the near term.
Right.
That is just helpful for a community to see whether it's changes in stop signs or simple changes in regulations that don't require a lot of capital or any capital. It just maybe is a policy modification that will ultimately impact one of the groups, whether they're residents or students.